Whitebeard died fighting the most brutal battle of his life, the battle against age and sickness itself. But what if, after Marineford, he was reborn with all his memories and powers intact? How would that change the story of One Piece forever? Shortly after his death one day, the sea was silent that night, but not calm. A strange curse came from beneath the waves, deep into the forgotten corners of the New World, where no ship ever returned from. The water moved in an unnatural rhythm, glowing with faint blue light. Within that glow was a broken spear, impaled in a mound of ancient coral. However, something interesting was happening in the deep. From the depths of this abyss, something terrifying woke up. This was a soul that had been denied its rest. The ocean itself started trembling as the seabed split open, creating an explosion of water that went from the ocean to the heavens. Inside the torrent, surrounded by bubbles of memory and flames that were literally boiling the water, came something unexplainable. It was Edward Newgate, the man the world knew as Whitebeard, reborn. But he felt different. His body was young again, with tight skin shimmering with strength. His arms were thick like boulders. His breath was sharp as thunder. The scars of Marineford were gone, but suddenly he remembered everything that had happened, turning him mad for quite a few moments. He heard the cries of his sons, the fall of Ace, and the laughter of a man who betrayed them all. All of these memories burned inside his mind like molten iron. As he looked down at his hands, he clenched them, cracking the air itself. The world had stolen his family, with many of his comrades falling. This time, he wanted to take the world itself. But things got darker when the island he awoke on was no ordinary landmass. It had rocks that were fused with strange metallic veins, glowing faintly. There were remnants of ancient experiments that were lost to time, and above were the monoliths covered in symbols that seemed older than the world government itself. They were flowing with the energy that whispered of a forbidden rebirth and the manipulation of souls. Whitebeard knew something or someone had brought him back, but he didn't know why. When he moved, the ground was getting destroyed under his feet. Each step sent ripples through the air with faint tremors that disturbed the peace of the beast that had never even known fear. From the jungle's depths, there were creatures of scale and bones ready to attack him. Then, gigantic lizards that were ancient and fast also surrounded him. However, Whitebeard himself turned to them without saying a word. He had no hesitation or empathy in his eyes. The young man now raised his arm, twisting the air itself. The Gura Gura no Mi's power exploded outward, and a single punch split the horizon. This shockwave destroyed the jungle while snapping trees like twigs, sending all the beasts flying into the sea. Whitebeard was surprised to find his power returned with an intensity he had lost long ago. His muscles hummed with energy, and the vibrations of the world seemed to listen to his heartbeat. He spent days training alone to master his body. Each morning, he shattered mountain-sized boulders, and each night he stood at the island's edge, summoning tidal waves with a single swing of his Bacento. The sea quaked around him, responding to him like he was its master. Peace did not last long as pirates arrived, drawn by Whitebeard's aura from hundreds of miles away. The Iron Fang crew landed first, with their captain attacking with steel arms, but Whitebeard caught the punch midair and released a hockey quake that obliterated everything within 100 meters. The sea erupted, and their ship shattered as the tremor expanded outward, destroying the entire crew in less than a minute. Days later, bounty hunters and warlords formed an armada with dozens of ships around the island. When they fired cannons, Whitebeard swung his weapon once, and the shockwave ripped across the fleet, crushing ships like paper. The sky turned white from energy, and the survivors never understood what they were facing. Whitebeard moved faster than anyone could blink despite his size, splitting waves and deflecting cannonballs with much greater strength than before. When the battles ended, only Whitebeard remained. Deep beneath the island's ruins, he discovered fragments of machines and ancient glyphs with words reading soul resonance and the reconstruction of will, along with the world government symbol. Someone had used forbidden science tied to the Void Century to resurrect the strongest man of his time. Memories of a shadowy figure came to him, and he realized his rebirth was a challenge, not a gift. Whitebeard spent the following weeks reshaping the island into a fortress and training until his body and power reached their peak. His daily hockey eruptions attracted the strongest beasts, and the tremors he caused were so vast that nearby islands reported phantom earthquakes. Eventually, the island began sinking from the constant training. Whitebeard built a boat and set sail under a new identity, wondering about Blackbeard. The sea trembled as it accepted its king's return. Far above in Mary Jawaz, the five elders felt the distant quake and knew trouble was coming. The dead had awakened. After Whitebeard's death, dozens of imposter crews sailed under his flag, enslaving villages and demanding tribute in his name. The New World responded when Edward Newgate himself mysteriously returned. He was young, scarless, and at full strength. He destroyed the fake fleets near Onaga Strait with overwhelming seismic power, killing hundreds within minutes while fighting barehanded and with his Bacento. The tremors from his attacks were felt across the New World. His former crew members Marco, Vista, and Izo each sensed the familiar quakes and recognized Whitebeard's distinct vibrations. Newgate began a systematic campaign across islands, hunting down every pirate crew misusing his flag and erasing entire fleets overnight while ensuring no civilians died. His attacks became ghost stories as he vanished before the Navy could arrive. His journey led him to the Sable Current, where the Trident Union, the powerful pirate lords claiming to be Whitebeard's true successors, controlled hundreds of ships across his former territories. Whitebeard emerged from the mist and shattered their combined forces with pure hockey and seismic attacks, defeating 3 lords who wielded lightning, magma, and enhanced strength. After annihilating their fleets, he left supplies for survivors before sailing onward. The 5 elders received reports of the incidents but dismissed them as myth until tremors shook Pangaea Castle itself. Marines dispatched admirals to investigate the reports, but they arrived only to find oceanic devastation and survivors claiming to have seen a ghost. Whitebeard's reputation spread across the seas, and on Urim Island, he discovered orphans and refugees, all former allies broken by Marineford's memories. Marco, Vista, and Izo rejoined him one by one, drawn by the same conviction, tearfully reuniting with their captain as the Sons of the Sea began to reform. The Supernovas Eustace Kidd, Basil Hawkins, and Scratchman Apu clashed with Whitebeard to satisfy their egos, but the encounter was brutal. Despite Kidd's magnetic attacks, Hawkins' shadow constructs, and Apu's destructive sound waves, Whitebeard shattered their combined assault with a single condensed quake that erased their attacks, capsized ships, destroyed cliffs, and split the sky for miles. The Supernovas barely survived, left broken and humble. Word of the clash spread rapidly, causing the younger generation to question everything they knew about power. The Sons of the Sea grew rapidly, patrolling violent regions and bringing order through sheer dominance. Whitebeard, mourning Ace's death, vowed revenge against those responsible. Other emperors took notice. Kaido's spies reported the fleet destructions. Big Mom's territories trembled at the new challenger, while Shanks alone understood the significance with a knowing smile. Whitebeard sensed the ocean's restless heartbeat, seeing this return as one final chance not to dominate, but to cleanse the world that had been corrupted by the same arrogance that took Ace's life. Whitebeard sensed trouble at Wano and sailed there, arriving to find Kaido in dragon form attacking a defeated Luffy. With his crew scattered unconscious and Luffy's body battered and broken, Kaido's Kanabo descended for the killing blow. Whitebeard's arrival split the sky with a massive shockwave that stopped the weapon mid-swing, rippling the ground and destroying mountains. Kaido stopped smiling when he saw the reborn Whitebeard step through the debris. The battle began immediately as Kaido swung his weapon and Whitebeard met it with his quake-coated Basento. The collision sent pulses through Onigashima that split towers and destroyed the upper plateau, terrifying everyone watching. Kaido transformed into his hybrid form with hardened dragon scales and thunderclouds coiling around him, charging with his lightning-ignited Kanabo. When Whitebeard countered with his quake-powered fist, the resulting earthquake reached the flower capital. Whitebeard stepped forward with increasingly heavy blows, his haki surging with conquerors, armament, and observation layered in terrifying precision. His Basento gleamed with advanced Ryo, destroying Kaido's attacks and sending him spinning. Each quake disrupted the flow of Kaido's haki and cracked the air around him. When Kaido unleashed Boro Breath, Whitebeard slammed his quake-coated fists into the air, splitting the attack and redirecting it back into Kaido's face, making the mighty beast stagger for the first time in decades. Kaido transformed back into dragon form, unleashing fire, wind, and thunder, but Whitebeard shattered the storm clouds with a single swing of his Basento. Advancing through burns and blood, Whitebeard landed deadly hits driven by pure will, finally slamming his Basento onto Kaido's head and knocking him unconscious. However, lightning carved through the darkened sky as Big Mom arrived on the battlefield. Kaido recovered and transformed back into hybrid form with blood dripping from his lip, and Big Mom's Napoleon sword clashed against Whitebeard's Basento. The battle twisted into chaos as 2 Yonko faced 1. Kaido and Big Mom formed an alliance, attacking Whitebeard in tandem with fire and thunder, merging into one destructive storm. Kaido struck from above, while Big Mom attacked from the side, and though Whitebeard retaliated with massive quake bursts that split the ground, the power balance shifted. The island began crumbling with lava bursting from fissures as Big Mom's homies unleashed fire waves and Kaido's roars shattered the air. For the first time since his revival, Whitebeard took a clean hit from Kaido's Kanabo that smashed into his ribs and sent him skidding across the shattered ground. Whitebeard stood back up, and then Luffy appeared beside him, broken but conscious again. Luffy's conqueror's haki burst in all directions, clashing against both emperors. Whitebeard grinned as he told Luffy he looked just like Ace now. The rhythm of the drums of liberation grew stronger as Luffy awakened Gear 5, his body shifting with cartoonish freedom and burning with Joy Boy's spirit. Together with Whitebeard, they charged into battle. Luffy met Kaido's fist mid-air with twisted punches, while Whitebeard followed with quake strikes that cracked Kaido's ribcage. When Big Mom charged with her blazing sword, Luffy caught it barehanded, and Whitebeard sent her crashing through rock pillars with blood spraying across the debris. The 2 Yonko regrouped and unleashed their ultimate attacks, Thunder Bagua of Destruction and Heavenly Prominence. Luffy and Whitebeard didn't dodge, but advanced instead, raising their weapons coated in pure quake energy and haki. Their combined attack met the incoming assaults with an explosion that split Wano's entire sky. Kaido's Kanabo shattered, Big Mom's sword melted, and both Yonko were killed. Big Mom screamed as Luffy's awakened fruit pierced through her, while Kaido accepted his fate as Whitebeard's Basento destroyed his core. Whitebeard stood breathing heavily with cracks across his bleeding arms, but his spirit burned brighter than ever. Luffy and the Whitebeard crew formed an alliance. Though Whitebeard told Luffy he had unfinished business to handle, the fall of Kaido and Big Mom echoed through every corner of the sea. After killing Kaido and Big Mom, Whitebeard traveled alone to Hachinosu, the pirate island ruled ruled by Blackbeard. The Blackbeard pirates emerged to defend their territory, with their strongest members attacking at once. Whitebeard raised his arm and unleashed a massive quake that fractured the air like glass, destroying pirates caught in the radius instantly. He systematically eliminated the crew one by one, with Burgess vanishing into dust, Van Augur destroyed, and Shiryu and Squard killed. Whitebeard personally tore Squard in half with his bare hands. Within minutes, the entire Blackbeard fleet was gone, and Whitebeard sat on Blackbeard's throne waiting for him. Blackbeard arrived from the sea with darkness forming around him like a living storm. He had mastered both the Yami Yami no Mi and the Gura Gura no Mi stolen from Whitebeard's corpse, fusing darkness with quake power. The battle was a perfect matchup as Whitebeard fought against his own stolen powers. Darkness absorbed Whitebeard's attacks while his quakes destroyed the darkness itself, and both powers clashed endlessly. Blackbeard's awakened Yami Yami no Mi pulled everything toward him, turning the battlefield into gravitational hell. However, Whitebeard used the pull to his advantage, channeling both Gura Gura and Armament Haki through his Basento to split open the darkness. His White Haki, an evolution of his control, outclassed Teach repeatedly until his Basento struck Blackbeard's face so hard it fractured his skull. Whitebeard won, but chose not to kill Blackbeard, instead detaining him as a lesson. Days later, Shanks arrived and told Whitebeard about being attacked by 5 Elder Garling Figureland. Despite winning the battle, it cost Shanks everything, with half his crew dead and the Elders possessing power unlike anything seen before. They decided to attack Marine headquarters to lure out the 5 Elders and kill them all, restoring balance to the New World. They contracted the Straw Hats, Warlords, and several other pirate crews for a full-blown ambush. History was repeating itself, but this time with Prime, Whitebeard, and Shanks leading the charge. The Second Marineford War began as the world's strongest forces arrived to end an era of suffering. Admirals unleashed their full power with Kizaru's light tearing through fleets, Fujitora bringing down meteors, and Green Bull's vines consuming ships. The pirates countered with Mihawk cutting through light, Boa shattering pacifistas, and the Straw Hats tearing apart battleships. Whitebeard stood in his prime at the center, and Garp fought him first, only to realize he was completely outclassed. Sakazuki then took over, and the two forces collided, with magma fists meeting quake-coated blows and cataclysmic eruptions that tore the earth apart. Sakazuki's molten attacks struck with unprecedented speed, but Whitebeard's armament Haki absorbed every blow. When Sakazuki struck from below with molten fists through the ground, Whitebeard slammed both hands into the air, creating a dome of cracks that encased them both. The air imploded and crushed everything inside, trapping Sakazuki within his own inferno. When the smoke cleared, Sakazuki's armor was melting, but he lunged again. Whitebeard stepped through with his Haki shielding him from the fire, and his quake pierced through Sakazuki, splitting him open as the surrounding air fractured. The magma boiled Sakazuki's own body from within, and Whitebeard won. The man who killed Ace was gone, and the blood debt of Marineford was repaid in full. As the Marines were losing and Shanks killed dozens without mercy, the 5 Elders descended from the sky with suffocating auras. One was engulfed in flames colder than ice. Another carried a black staff with celestial runes. A third radiated darkness superior to Blackbeard's power. The fourth moved with impossible speed, and the fifth stood silent, possessing nothing yet everything. Shanks engaged the Flame Elder, Mihawk fought the Staff Elder, and Whitebeard faced Saint Saturn. Their collision sent shockwaves that erupted the sea and bent the sky. Saturn's power pulled at the sea like the Yami Yami no Mi, but infinitely stronger, his body shimmering like liquid shadow. Every strike Whitebeard unleashed was absorbed and twisted into nothingness, nullifying his quakes for the first time since his rebirth. However, with Luffy and Zoro's support, the other pirates made amazing progress and defeated all the other Elders. But then, Saturn whispered something in Whitebeard's ear that changed everything and froze him for the moment. He told Edward that he was the reason he was standing here, as he revived the old fella. When Whitebeard asked for the reason, he pointed back, and there was a shadowy figure looking at the whole battlefield. Saturn told him that he had had enough of Imu's control, and that he wanted to restore the true balance in the world. But without Whitebeard's powers, it would be impossible. Imu was angry at Saturn, swearing to kill him. He was the god of annihilation, and even Saturn started trembling under his presence. But there was no time to talk. Imu raised a single hand, and entire warships were turned to dust. The ocean itself bowed. Whitebeard roared with his Basento glowing with quake energy, shattering Imu's first wave of darkness. His punch split the heavens, an earthquake that tore through the overpowered attacks. But Imu didn't even flinch. Rather, the silhouette blurred, and a black blade of light pierced through Whitebeard's chest with blood spraying, yet he didn't fall. Not again. Not this time. Before Imu could strike again, a flash of red crossed his field of vision. It was Shanks. His sword clashed against Imu's blade, and the impact erupted into crimson lightning. They fought against each other, but the darkness ultimately took over Shanks, forcing him to guard against the enemy. Luffy was in his Gear 5 form, bouncing into the chaos like a rubber god. Reality was bending as Luffy's will was changing the dynamics of the battlefield. Even Imu seemed stunned for the moment. Together, the three legends, Whitebeard, Shanks, and Luffy, charged. Saturn was bleeding but determined and used his strange energy that was backed by science and ancient poneglyphs to trap Imu's moment for a good amount. Whitebeard's Quake Punch collided with Shanks' blade that was coated in Conqueror's Haki, and Luffy slammed his Gomu Gomu no Bajrang gun into the same point, ultimately killing Imu and restoring the balance of the world. In the end, Whitebeard survived, and And the new Marine head was none other than Saturn, while others got captured. Even Blackbeard was in the Marines' prisons now, and the pirate world that was once messed up changed thanks to the revival of one man, Whitebeard. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more One Piece videos.